Hey guys! This is just a quick tutorial on how to make a Luffy style cupcake design. Like this video and I'll see if I can do a chopper version as well. What you will need: some coloured fondants in the colours red, orange, ivory, black and white. You will also need some royal icing, a smoother, a knife tool, a paper cutting tool and a pencil. Some greaseproof paper or any tracing paper, a knife, some water, a pot, a paintbrush, a scissors and a pair of tweezers. And also a rolling pin. Take your design and make sure it's around the same size that will exactly fit on top of your cupcake, like so. Take some red fondant, make sure it's nice and malleable, and cover the chopping board or work surface in icing sugar. Make sure you cover the rolling pin or it'll stick to the rolling pin. And then roll out the fondant until it's about 2 millimeters thick. Cut a piece of fondant that is large enough to cover the entire top of the cupcake. Make sure it is big enough before you commit to sticking it down. Next, make some royal icing. This is just simply icing sugar mixed with either warm or lukewarm water. It doesn't have to be really thick, but as long as it's got the consistency of glue, then that should be sufficient. With the icing, cover the top of the cupcake in a thin layer, just so that the fondant will stick to the top of the cupcake. Place the fondant on top of the cupcake and gently pat down. Now, gently around the edge, tap the fondant so that it bends over the edge of the cupcake case. And slowly, the fondant will break away over the edge of the cupcake case, giving you a tight seal around the cupcake and the case to make the following design. Do this to all the cupcakes you want the design to be on. Then take a paintbrush and a small bowl of water and paint the top of the cupcakes to remove the excess icing sugar. This will also make the cupcakes sticky, so please try and avoid touching the top of the cupcakes. Now take your design and we're going to start with the lightest colour first. So that is the teeth, Luffy's teeth. We will trace Luffy's teeth with the greaseproof paper or the tracing paper so that we can draw the design onto the white fondant. Next, you want to take another piece of greaseproof paper and roll the white fondant out onto this piece of paper in a thin layer like before, like you did with the red. Once at the right thickness, place the drawing of the teeth on top of the fondant and using the sharp cutting tool, slowly cut around the design. This should go through the actual greaseproof paper and cut through the fondant. and then slowly cut away the excess fondant. Using a knife tool, or just a knife, you want to make the indent going across the teeth to make it look like there's a groove in Luffy's teeth. And then once you've done that to all three, you want to make a groove straight down the middle and then do the teeth to either side so that it's all even. Once this is done, you want to place the teeth in the fridge while you do the other pieces. This will make them easier to transfer later on. Next, we're going to do the face. Now make sure, like before, you trace around the entire face, but instead of doing the complicated hairline, just do a smooth curve line just above the hairline so that it's not so hard to cut out. This time I will be using ivory fondant, and the same as before, you do exactly the same process. You cut out the figure and then do it again and again, depending on how many times you actually want to do it. And cut out the faces and pop it in the fridge so that it goes a little bit harder, so it's easier to move on to the cupcakes later. Don't be too harsh on yourself on the cutting out. As you can see what I'm doing here, I'm just tidying up the faces after I've cut them out, just to make them look a bit more smoother. Next we're doing Luffy's infamous orange straw hat. Now again, like you did with the face, you want to cut around in a circle manner, not just the edge of the actual hat. Otherwise it would be a lot more complicated to cut out. So make it simple for yourself. Sort of guess where the hat would end behind the actual head. And again, same process, roll out the fondant onto the greaseproof paper. This time I used a smoothing tool as another technique, as it helps stick the other greaseproof paper with the design on it onto the fondant itself. Therefore it doesn't move so much when you're trying to cut it out. Next we're going to do the hair. This was actually my favourite bit because it was a little bit complicated, but I enjoyed the challenge of trying to cut out the anime style hairstyle. You want to make the thickness of the fondant a little bit thicker than usual for the hair because of the tiny little spikes, and you don't want it to just, fall apart. So try and make it a little bit thicker. Also, try not to use too much or very little icing sugar, as the white really stands out badly on the black icing and it's quite difficult to get off. The last thing to make is Luffy's eyes. This is just simply rolling up tiny little pieces of black fondant and trying to bend it so that it fits exactly over the eyes. This is where the tweezers come in, because it's very tiny and delicate to move the little tiny pieces of fondant. Now we layer all the pieces of fondant onto the cupcake. If the cupcake is not sticky, then cover it in a layer of water, and each layer goes on individually and with a layer of water in between to make the fondant pieces stick to each other. Use the design to help you guide to where the actual pieces will go on the cupcake, and they simply just pat it down and then layered. Don't feel like once they're down they can't be moved. You can move them about a bit. Hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to see more tutorials like this. I will be doing a chopper version if you like this video. Have a nice week, guys. Bye!